Yo, what's up everybody? Jumping here, and I am back on some Anthem, and today I actually want to show you guys my Interceptor melee build. Now, what's really interesting about the Interceptor and me is that I actually never did a build video for this back in the day. I grinded like crazy on all the other javelins to make sure that I had all the best stuff to make videos about, but when it came to the Interceptor, I was just burned out. I didn't want to do it again. The drop rate sucked, but ever since the Cataclysm came out, and on top of that, we also have a much better drop rate. I've been able to grind this out, and it's been really nice. Now, a quick tip if you are wondering, I do actually recommend grinding other things other than the Cataclysm, because yes, that can get kind of repetitive over time. I recommend trying out some Strongholds. You'll be surprised. You can get a lot of legendaries from grinding Strongholds. That's something I've been doing a lot, and it definitely is nice. Now, this is a melee build, so let's actually start by talking about the melee that you want. Now, in my personal opinion, the melee you want is the Deathstalker Blades. There's a couple reasons for this. First of all, these do a lot more damage than the other ones. That's just the truth of the matter. If you don't believe me, try it out for yourself. But the other thing I really like about these is that they are primers. One of the worst things about the Interceptor, at least I always hated this playing as a Ranger or playing as a Colossus, is that the Interceptor would steal all of the combos. You're priming a target, and the Interceptor comes in to melee it, because that's what the Interceptor likes to do, and it's just stealing all the combos. And it's like, oh my god, Interceptor, your combos are so weak. Let the Ranger do it. Let the Colossus detonate the combo because it's going to be so strong. But because these are a primer now, you don't have to worry about that. You can go in and melee all you want, and you're not going to make any Rangers or Colossus upset because you're just priming. That's what they want. They want to detonate combos. So that is great. Now, you can detonate combos as an Interceptor to get your aura if that's something you want to do, but you don't have to do it non-stop, and you can't control it. That's the problem with the other blades. So these are really great because they do more damage than the other blades, but on top of it, you are priming, you are not detonating. I absolutely love these. Now, the effect on these, though, I don't really quite understand because I have never noticed that I'm doing additional damage against enemies that are below 50% health. I mean, for all I know, maybe this effect is always active. I'm not sure because these blades, just by default, seem to do more damage than the other ones. This is something I've noticed. But there are a lot of ways to buff this damage to make it do even more. Now, what you want on your melee, if you're going for melee damage, is you want weapon damage as much as possible. The best you can get is pretty much like 400%, and maybe you can get one melee inscription as well. And if you have that, you have like the ultimate god roll. So unfortunately, I don't have that, but it's pretty close, so I'm not going to complain about it. Now, when it comes to the other blades, though, I will say that these are really good for making you super tanky. You can definitely make a really tanky Interceptor build if you are using these. So that is something that you might want to do. And if you want to do that, that's fine. Now, let's go ahead and talk about something really important. And that is actually the assault system, because you definitely want to use the acid bomb. The acid bomb is amazing with the acid blades because when you get a melee hit, it will increase all acid damage by 200%. This will actually up the damage of your melee, and that's really crazy. You don't even ever have to throw the acid bomb if you don't want to. It is something you should do every once in a while, especially for other people. Like if there is a Colossus roaming around, you can actually just chuck this into a spawn of a lot of enemies. It has huge radius to it, so it will prime all of them, and the Colossus can go in there and detonate all of them and kill them all. So this is something you should be doing, but you don't even ever have to throw it. You can get this effect to trigger just by meleeing, and that is amazing. It has great synergy with the acid blades. Now, for the support system, I recommend actually using the target beacon. Now, both of them are actually pretty good. I do like this one. It can revive down teammates. It can get rid of annoying status ailments. But the target beacon is so much better now. You can go ahead and throw this out, mark a huge group of enemies, and then pretty much before you know it, the entire area is marked for death. That is epic. It has a really quick recharge to it, but on top of it, really what you want on this, in my opinion, is just charges. Get as many as you can and spam this. For any enemy that is not marked in an area, mark them, and before you know it, every enemy in the area will be marked. So it's definitely really nice. Now, I have another one here that actually has combo or effect. You really don't want that. I really don't understand it all that well, But from what I do understand, what it does is that it actually will make it so that your combo aura will actually apply to enemies faster. The problem is that whenever you have a aura, it almost applies instantly when you get close to an enemy. So if it's ice or if it's acid, you get close to an enemy, it's going to apply the aura pretty much instantly. So what is the point of buffing that to make it apply even faster? I don't really get it. I wish that that effect would actually increase the duration of the aura. That would be nice, but it doesn't, so you don't really need it. Just go for charges. That's what you want. Next up, let's talk about the strike system. Now, if you have a god roll, I definitely say that the new ability is the way to go. It has so much damage on it. It has a huge radius. It can detonate combos. It is great. I have a really crappy roll though, unfortunately, and I got really unlucky when it came to actually getting this. So I'm not using it because of that, and instead I'm using the Sudden Death. This is Detonator. It's really nice. It has 29% damage. It has 100% charges on it. I like it a lot. It has a cool effect too, a fire explosion. It does actually hit pretty hard. But the main thing about this is that you can use this to detonate combos. You're not going to detonate combos non-stop. That's not what you're going for. You're going to let other people like the Rangers or the Colossuses detonate combos. But if you want to get an aura, you can get an aura anytime you want if you're using something like this. Or the new ability, because the new ability is amazing. And by the way, with the new ability, I would say I want to get one with a lot of damage bonuses on it just to see on how much damage can this thing hit for. I'm sure that having multiple charges is also good, but I'm just really curious to see how much damage that can actually hit for. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about the components now. So the first one is Soften Blows. This is so good on pretty much every Javelin. The Colossus really doesn't need it, but outside of that, every Javelin can benefit from this tremendously. So you definitely want to get a Legendary of this if you can. If you don't have a Legendary and you only have a Masterwork, it is kind of worth using even if it's Masterwork, just because whenever you lose your shield, you get 75% damage resistance for 5 seconds. That is really good. It can definitely help you stay alive. The Interceptor is close range for the melee, and because of that, especially on the higher Grandmasters, when you have to get close to like a Legendary enemy, you can definitely die. So Soften Blows will definitely help you out. Now, if you can get some inscriptions on this, because it is universal, that comes with like melee damage, that's what you want. I have 29% damage and 15% elemental. That's pretty good. I like it. But if I had a lot of melee damage on this, that would be amazing. Next up is Vengeance Matrix. This will increase all your damage by 50%, but it will increase the amount of damage that you take by 25%. A lot of people read that wrong because it's worded really badly. They think that this actually reduces the damage that you take. That is not the case. This is actually the upgraded version of Double-Edged Sword, meaning that you will take more damage, but you do more damage. Now, the effect on this will give you 50% damage resistance whenever you are low armor. The problem with that, though, is if you're low armor, you're probably going to die, and it's unfortunate. Now, if you do have Soften Blows and this together, and you still have the 5 seconds of the Soften Blows effect, this will make you invincible, and you will not die. Now, elemental stuff can pretty much kill you still, unfortunately, but outside of that, you should survive if you actually have the two effects working together. The big problem, of course, is that Soften Blows only last for 5 seconds, so you always have to consider that, and it is a bummer, but it does actually save you sometimes. But overall, I feel like this effect is kind of dumb just because it's on low armor. But it's better than nothing. Moving on, we have Way of the Resolve. This is, of course, just melee damage. There's really not much else to say about this besides the fact that it gives you melee damage, and that's nice. Next up, let's talk about this stupid component. Now, I like this component, don't get me wrong, but the reason I don't like it is because it took me forever to get. This was the last component I needed for my Interceptor in my build, and it took me forever to actually get this thing. And when I got it, I was kind of disappointed. Now, I don't want to get into any type of conspiracy theories here or anything like that. I do it all the time with this game, though. But back in the day, when I didn't really play the Interceptor, and my friends did, they used to tell me about this thing. Oh man, it's so good. You do some melees, you do an electrical explosion, and it does a lot of damage. And they used to tell me it would hit for like 30 to 40,000 every time it would trigger. So when I got this thing and I started using it, I noticed, oh boy, they nerfed it. The damage now is like 10 to 12,000, which is actually really low. My melees do much more than that. So it's like, what's the point of using this thing? Well, here's the problem. When you take this off, especially if you're fighting against red bar enemies, you will notice that you are killing them a lot slower than when you have this on. So even though it's saying 10 to 12,000 damage, and it's only triggering every 2 seconds, so it's not like it's triggering on every single hit. But the thing is that this dramatically will increase your time to kill. You can kill things so much faster when you have this on. I almost think that the number is not displaying correctly. It's saying 10 to 12, but in reality, it's actually giving you 30 to 40. I don't know, I could be wrong on that, but it's just something that I noticed. And if you don't believe me, try it out for yourself. Take this off and run around and kill a mob of enemies and see how long it takes you to kill that mob. Put this back on, go and fight those enemies again, and you'll notice you're killing them so much faster. And if you're only hitting them for 10 to 12 and your melee is doing much more than that, that is definitely very weird. Now let's go into talk about Way of the Bold. This one's pretty simple. Defeating an enemy with your melee restores 40% of your armor. That is actually a lot of armor, and I definitely would recommend this a whole lot. This will help you stay alive by far. Now, if you want to be a super glass cannon and you have the means to do so, you could take this off and go for more melee damage. But it's kind of hard for me to recommend that because this has saved my life so many times. I definitely think you want to be using this if you can. Now, the actual effect on this thing, it says increases aura combo pulse strength by 40%. I'm pretty sure that means combo aura effect, which is pretty dumb. I already talked about it before with the support system, but from my understanding, it will just make your combo aura actually apply the effect faster, which is kind of pointless since the aura pretty much will instantly apply the effect. Now, the final one I actually have on here is emergency power. Now, there's a couple reasons why I really like this. The first reason is I actually have a good inscription on it. I have 65% melee damage. That's really good. The other reason why I like this is that it has synergy with Soften Blows and Vengeance Matrix. I talked about that before. But what will happen is if you are really weak and you just lost your shield, so you have the Soften Blows effect and you have the Vengeance Matrix effect, that will make you invincible, so you will not die. And this can kick in at that point. Emergency power will give you your ultimate back. You pop your ultimate, it saves your life. It's actually really good. And the other thing is that this will increase your ultimate damage. And that is helpful. This will actually increase it by a lot. That's one thing I've noticed. If you're putting ultimate sigils on, or you're putting this on, your ultimate damage goes up by a lot. So it is something to consider. Now there are other options for you, but there's one that I think is the best, which is Bloodlust. This one is insane. I do not have a legendary of this, and the Masterwork roll I have is completely garbage. But every once in a while, I'll put this on, and let me tell you, this will increase your melee damage by a lot. The good news is melee does not scale off your power anymore. It scales purely off the weapon. So it doesn't matter if you're using a Masterwork or a legendary. Yes, your combo damage will go down and some of your effect damage will go down, but not your melee damage. So that's really cool. You can use Bloodlust even if it's a Masterwork and you'll still do a lot of melee damage. So this is one that I definitely would recommend, especially if you have a really good roll on it, like melee damage for an inscription. That would be crazy. But if you have a legendary of this, that's great. I don't, and it sucks. Now the final one that I do use from time to time, and this one really does save my life a lot. It's kind of hard for me to recommend this one because I doubt that you'll have the inscriptions that I do. But this component, survival algorithm, this one actually had double luck on it for me. They replaced the luck stat and they replaced it with armor. So now it has 165% maximum armor, which is crazy. So this really ups my armor by a lot. On top of that, this is actually a pretty good component because it deals with status effects. That is one of the things that will kind of screw you as an interceptor, because even if you have Vengeance Matrix and you also have Soften Blows, if you're on fire, you can still potentially die. But I've noticed when I have this on, I don't die. And then what happens? I get my shields back, which will then reset my Soften Blows. So if I lose my shield again, I get that effect back, I get my Vengeance Matrix back, and it saves my life. So this is something that really makes me a lot tankier. When I'm playing Grandmaster 3, this helps a lot. Because on Grandmaster 3, especially, if you run into some legendary enemies, they will melt you. And having things like this will definitely help you. So, those are kind of all your options. Like I said, there's a good chance you're not going to have the inscriptions like I do on that survival algorithm. But that is actually a pretty good component just because it helps you deal with those status effects. You also have the support gear as well if you want to use that to help you deal with status effects. so it is an option. Now, before I forget, let me quickly talk about the other weapons I'm using. The first weapon I have here is Unending Battle. This is a machine pistol. The effect on it is pretty good, especially for the Interceptor. It will increase your melee damage by 135% for 5 seconds. You have to shoot an enemy first, though. It says it's at point blank range, but that is bullcrap. I have shot at enemies from pretty far away. It gives me the effect. It's all good. But it's only 5 seconds, and it's really annoying to maintain this effect. But when you are fighting bosses or you're fighting really strong enemies, it is a good idea to actually shoot them from time to time to get this bonus so that you can do more melee damage. So that's how I use it, and that's how I would recommend to actually use it if you have it. Next up, this one is actually important though. You want to use a Rallier's Blaze to help you deal with those stupid flying enemies. There's a lot of them. They're really hard to melee, so if you want to knock them out of the air, use this. It will knock them down. You can melee them. And that's pretty much it. So those are the weapons I would recommend. Now it's time for the gameplay. So the first clip I'm going to show here is going to be me and my Colossus friend. Right now, the Interceptor absolutely loves the Colossus. If you can play with Colossus and you're an Interceptor, you're going to have a good time, let me tell you. Because the Colossus can dramatically buff the Interceptor. They used to be like mortal enemies, and I'll talk about that in the clip. But right now, they are like best friends, and it is absolutely epic. So in the first clip, I'm going to be showing you like maximum Interceptor melee damage. It's going to be crazy on how fast I can kill things on Grandmaster 3. But that's not really fair because I'm doing it on purpose to show it off. So in the second clip I'm going to show, I'm going to be actually by myself. I'm going to be showing you some normal gameplay on how it works so that you can actually see the build in action when it's really hyper buffed by the Colossus and when you are just playing normally. Alrighty guys, so this is going to be the gameplay. It's on Grandmaster 3. I'm in a cave in free play, so all the enemies in here are going to be elite. And I am going to just wreck everything. Now that first kill there is going to be the first and only real kill that you're going to see. That's your normal standard damage. And then after that, I have Bloodlust going. I have Berserker's Cry from the Colossus. I'm marking all the targets, at least the vast majority of them. Some of them I actually don't mark because I'm just a dummy like that. But you're going to see some crazy damage from this melee. It is insane. Now, the main thing I want to talk about here in this first clip, because I'm not going to talk about the numbers, you can see them for yourself, and you can, of course, just see how fast some of these enemies are dying. It is pretty insane. But the main thing I actually want to talk about is Berserker's Cry, which comes from the Colossus. The Colossus gets so much good stuff, it's unbelievable. I don't know, I swear to God, BioWare, they just love the Colossus so much. But I'm a big fan of the Colossus, so I don't really care. And it's great for the Interceptor. In fact, it's great for everybody. Maybe the Storm doesn't benefit from it all that much. The Ranger sure does, that's for sure. But also the Interceptor and the Colossus himself will benefit from it. Now, the vast majority of Colossus that you're going to play with, if they're randoms or not, they're probably going to be using Berserker's Cry. Because most people look at it and they say, you know, this is going to benefit me more than the other one. Now, the other one is not bad, don't get me wrong. It's actually pretty freaking good. But Berserker's Cry is so good. It's a debuff, and it gives out 200% melee damage to everyone. And the range of that is actually quite insane. I really do think that it's the entire map. And yeah, that's just ridiculous. I'm also shooting some of these enemies, by the way, which is also increasing my damage. And yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. But the Colossus and the Interceptor now are like best friends. They really are. They used to be kind of mortal enemies. Now, I'm speaking from the perspective of a Colossus. I used to play Colossus a lot, and I really like Ranger. In fact, I would say Colossus and Ranger is my two favorite. And being that those are my two favorite, one thing that always bugged me and really annoyed me was the fact that a lot of times you would be playing, setting up combos, detonating combos. You're doing these massive, huge combos that are killing everything. And then an Interceptor comes in and he starts detonating all the combos. And it's just annoying, especially on stronger targets where you know that as a Colossus or a Ranger, if you were the one detonating those combos, that target would have died so much faster than the Interceptor doing it. So that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love these new Acid Blades, just because they prime. You don't have to worry about making anybody mad if you're playing with them. And in fact, as a player of the Interceptor, I want the Colossus or the Ranger to detonate combos because they're going to get a lot of damage. The Colossus can hit and the Ranger can hit for like well over 300,000 damage right now with their combos. That's so much better than the Interceptor. And in this clip where I don't have my Colossus friend, I'm not getting the buff. This is just pretty much all me. And in fact, I don't even have Bloodlust on this part. I switched it out for actually survival algorithm just because it makes me a lot more tanky. And you're going to see it too, because in the last clip, you could see that I was taking some damage and I could have potentially died because my invincibility kicked in from Soften Blows and Vengeance Matrix, because once those things are stacking together, you are invincible. It's just that Soften Blows only last for 5 seconds, so, you know, that's something. But point being is that the Interceptor right now, I mean, this is pretty good. Don't get me wrong. This is great. And when you are going against something really strong, you can always pop your ultimate. Your ultimate with the Interceptor is definitely really, really good. So that is always an option as well. So this Interceptor build right now is amazing, and it definitely benefits from playing with the Colossus. And luckily, the Colossus is very popular. You're going to see it all the time. That support system is going to be popular. Most Colossus are going to be using that. So that is something that you can really have a lot of fun with. And sometimes, especially when you are playing like Grandmaster 3, for example, depending on the activity you're playing, you're going to run into a lot of Colossus. In fact, you're going to run into a lot more Colossus than any other class. This is something I've noticed when you're playing with random people, because most people, if they're going into Grandmaster 3, they want to take something really tanky and they want to take something that is really strong, and the Colossus is pretty much the best javelin in the game, at least in my opinion. So I mean, that's why you see it so much in Grandmaster 3. But hey, it benefits the Interceptor, it benefits everybody. That is amazing. Alrighty guys, well that's going to do it for this video. I really hope that you have enjoyed it. If you have, will you please like the video for me? Be sure to subscribe and also click the bell. If you don't click the bell, well, you won't get any notifications. I will actually be posting some more Anthem stuff coming up really soon here, because I do want to actually go back and kind of update some of my older builds. Primarily just all of the different javelins. They're all so much better now, and there's some really cool stuff that you can do on these javelins. So I'm going to be posting that pretty soon here. I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day, and peace out.